Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to this month's training session. Today we have our Excel guru, Carolyn Ironside, assisting us with the Tetris of Business Excel for the beginner and intermediate level. Before I hand over to Daniel for a quick introduction, just to go over the usual housekeeping items, a recorded version of this training session will be available at the bottom of our registration page. Should you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we will address those at the end. Just quickly regarding our upcoming training, we have the Power BI, which is not a workout routine, on the 27th of November at 12:30 as well. So yes, don't forget that one. We'll send reminders as well. Any future training, please check our registration page and yeah, hand over to Daniel now.
Great stuff. Thank you, Bianca. Hey, so welcome. Thank you for coming along. We are looking for more topics. So if there's things that you're interested in learning about that we can have one of our chaps or present, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, we'll find something ourselves. But just as a word of introduction, Carolyn joined us nearly 2 years ago now, she'll probably correct me, and has made an enormous difference to the business. Having somebody of her caliber, essentially a chartered accountant working within the business, to ensure that we're billing out everything we should be billing out, making sure we're not overbilling or underbilling, that we've got our financial ducks in a row, has made an enormous difference to our business. And I'd be lost without her. My only jealousy is I have to share her with my wife's business. So without any mucking about, if I didn't have somebody like Carolyn in here to explain to me what all those boxes meant, she's actually quite good in making the boxes in Excel different colors to help me out, because I'm a little bit more, Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal in my financial knowledge. She's been brilliant in helping me with that. So Carolyn, let's get your camera on. If you could switch her on. And hello, we can almost see all of you.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, did you want to crank in? Let's start with, whatever it is that you've got for us, and I'll jump in with questions, or if we've got any questions at a later during this, actually. If you post them to the chat or raise your hand, I think there's another function within Zoom. Then I might interject, take a pause, and just see if we can get those answered on the fly. Otherwise, we'll save it to the end and see how we go.
Okay, hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm very passionate about using Excel. I find it fun and exciting, and I've got so many tricks and tips in it now that I'm probably would have called myself an advanced user, but now I'm probably intermediate, because they keep adding awesome stuff, data queries and power pivots. So but let's start with the simple stuff. So I will share my screen if I can. Okay. The green bottom at the bottom. Button at the bottom. Okay, so what I wanted to start with was wanted to show you how to analyze data to create essentially some analysis of valuable information. So what I've got here is a list of customers, which is downloaded from our software. So we use Xero, but we also have CRM packages. So this one, the data is entirely false to protect the identities of our customers. So what I've got is basic data. I've then converted this data into a simple pivot table, which tells me the type of products that we're selling and who are my salespeople and what they're selling. Over on this sheet here, I've got a bit more analysis by salesperson, which is showing me my percentages of what they're selling. This one here is showing the averages, and this one is showing what's open and what's paid. What we've got here is the salesperson's offering discounts, and this one here shows the overall sales total. So this is based on quarterly information, and it feeds from here. So this one here is just a couple of graphs. So the graphs are built from the pivot table, and the pivot tables are built from the data. So what we do when we're analysing data is we start from the left, start with our basic data, work to some analysis, and then we create a presentation which is then used to make decisions on revenue streams and where to go with our, in this case, salespeople, in order to look at where we're actually generating revenue. So I'm just going to create a pivot table from this raw data. So essentially with the tools in Excel, assuming you've got 2016 version of Excel, we just click insert, create pivot table, and then we select the data that we want to use. So in this case, we'll look at the salesperson, and then we'll look at the net amount. Information to be useful should be looking at the net amount exclusive of GST. So here, the numbers, they pull through in this basic format. So we want the number format of this pivot table to become more useful. So we want to show it as revenue. Sometimes when people are looking at it, if there's no dollar sign, it can be confusing on what the numbers actually are. Okay, so by clicking in that one box, it changes the whole format. So in this, of this pivot table, I now want to create a graph. We just can go to recommended charts and pull up a graph like this and then paste it here. So now we can see the top salesperson is Jeremy Toppy. Okay, so then what we can also do is create another pivot table using the same information. This time we want to look at of those amounts, the amounts that is paid. So we can quickly see, well, Harley Pauls has a lot paid, but he has some unpaid. We might use this for working out commission. What we might want to do is work out the status over here. So we just move it onto the pivot table. So we have a grand total, open, and what's paid. And then from here, we can create another chart.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, could you just do that again? Because I think I might have missed that.
Okay, so copy this pivot table. I want to change what I'm looking at. So say that I want to look at the status. So I click there, but it appears down here. I want it up here.
Oh, that's cool. And this is all still referencing the original data set in the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So also what I'm looking at here is a report template that I can use again and again. So say next month my data here gets added to, I can run the source report, paste it into here, and it comes in automatically in this format, which doesn't change. It just adds new data. And then I can just update it. So once you've created a report like this, you can use it ongoingly.
Sorry,
So
how do you do that source report thing? If you had updated the data, how would you refresh?
So you just paste the new data at the bottom or run it from the same period. So if we were to add on, so this is looking at August and September. So if I then get October data, I can run a report from my software for August, September, October, just paste it onto here, and then the new data will appear at the bottom. My paid and unpaid will automatically update with this data, and then that will update all of my pivot tables. So you just go click on each pivot table and refresh the data. And the same with all of these. So this information is September and August. When I add October, all of these amounts will change automatically. So it all depends. So when you've got a desktop report that you want to look at that's got this information, you've just got a template, and so next month you don't have to recreate it. You just replace the data.
Right, and I mean, this basically could come from any source where you can export the data out in like a CSV format, like whether it's from another Excel sheet or from a database or from,
Yes,
or just formatted text, really, couldn't you?
Yeah, so the files come out of your software in CSV format, usually, and when you open them into Excel, it will delimit the data if it's in CSV into Excel format, enabling you to do this. Okay, and then to create a graph, the simplest way is just to take the recommendation. So this one here, this is now looking at what's open and what's paid. And then it just pops it there. So I can take that and I can put that onto here. Or I can put it onto here.
Because often you're looking for trends or outliers, right? That in the data that is hard to spot just by looking at the table, right?
Yeah.
And you know, for example, one of those things I think was what is it? The salesperson Hope Transom has, you know, the largest amount of discounts, whilst they're also being one of the, you know, the better sellers, I think. So it's like, well, okay, if that's, you know, that there's clearly something that needs to have a conversation there. You can't discount your way to profit.
That's right. And then the other point of it might be that Brad Lemont, for example, he might be one of the lowest because of what he is actually selling. So he might be in charge of software. It might be easiest to get the highest revenue for hardware. And then you might think, well, do we need to change around what we're selling, how they sell it? Perhaps they can learn from each other, and what can we do to get Brad's sales up to the level of Jeremy Topper, for example. Okay, so that is creating a pivot table and a pivot chart. And what I wanted to do is actually to move on to using a template that Microsoft Excel give you now, which is your cash forecasting. So with this cash flow forecasting, when you go into Excel, they now offer you templates. This one here is one of the examples, and the two sheets that come with it are the cash flow forecast and the cash flow chart. So these are great. They tell you how to create a cash flow forecast. So you start with your starting cash, and then you're inputting your sales and your expenses. So as we all know, we have, this was created in America, this template. In New Zealand, we have GST. So when you're creating a cash flow forecast, typically it will have the GST expense, whereas in America, they don't worry about that. So this version here is oversimplistic because it doesn't enable you to factor in the 15% GST. So some of these things have GST and some of them don't. This one here, this company's clearly in trouble because they start out with 13K and their expenses are really high. But this is me playing around with the figures. The other thing to remember when you're building a cash flow forecast is never to put formulas into this page here. Always have a sheet with your actual data on it on a separate tab. So this one here, again, is just downloaded bank transactions from our software. The transactions are all changed to prevent the security breach of the of our suppliers and customers. Okay, so what I've got here is I'm trying to create a data model that's as simple as it gets for sales. So here I'm saying November, my sales is 10,000. Here I'm trying to say that I'm going to expect growth of 0.1% each month ongoingly. So this here is saying take November, add on my increase, and that is ongoing. So what I've got here is a $sign in this formula because I'm trying to pick up this cell constantly. So ongoingly, it always feeds back to that cell. And it's also adding on to this month rather than this month.
Sorry to drag you back a little bit, Carolyn, but just so we don't lose anyone, this template, which does seem really cool, how did you find it?
Okay, so when you are in Excel, file, new. So obviously I've got the latest version of Office. When you go to new, you've got a range of templates here. So this one is pretty great because loan analysis worksheet. So these are templates provided by Microsoft automatically when you've got the latest version, and it helps you work out whether to proceed with a loan or not. So this one here that I've started with for the cash flow. Oh, more templates. Small business cash flow.
Outstanding. Okay, that's really cool. That's useful to know.
Okay, so this here gives you a chart so you can factor in where your cash flow is going to go. So in this case, it's starting to grow. This is a small business. This one here, they've already got some figures in this template, which is fine. It's pretty basic. And this automatically feeds into the chart and updates it. So a good way to start using the templates is just do it for your home office costs, your personal budget. So this works for 12 months ahead, this basic one. And then you've got a cash minimum balance alert. So when you go under that, then the cells highlight as red. So I'm just going to...
If somebody was looking at doing this and was like, how do I add in or adjust this or put in GST or something like that, could they drop you a line and just, tap your brain?
Sure, yeah.
Accounts at vertech.co.nz.
Okay, so going back to this one here. So I'm looking at my sales. I'm expecting that my consultants are going to stay the same. My hardware is going to have growth and my lease sales is going to have some growth in here. Okay, so cash receipts. This here is linking to November because I know that I get paid on the 20th of the month following. And then my total cash receipts here will feed into here. So this is my data source and it's linking to cell C15. Okay, so the biggest cost that employers have is wages. So in this chart here, you can see that they're going to run out of money and we don't want that. So we need to make decisions about what to do with our staff. So we've got all these staff and we want to have a better sales return than that, or we're not going to get through. There is the cost of the KiwiSaver as well. So the overall cost per month is 72k, and that feeds into this line here. Okay, so things where it is a static amount, you can just build it on like rent. Rent is generally a fixed amount. Then you can just put in a hard-coded figure here. But what I would recommend is that if you're going to link this to the data source sheet and then sometimes have hard-coded, then make sure you've got some sort of indicator. So in this case, I might put a D here, and here I'd leave that as a H. To me, that indicates that this is hard-coded and this is linked to my data. Okay. Right, so if I then go and make changes to here, so Shelley and Emmy are going to be leaving us, unfortunately, because we just can't pay our bills. You know, we're still in dire straits there, so we need to make some changes.
I like your make some changes. It's becoming a little bit euphemistic for drastic cutting of the workforce. But the key point about it, that why you're doing all this is so that you can actually make good, solid business decisions, hopefully ahead of time, so that you're not taken off guard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this template is pretty good and it's pretty helpful. Down here, you've got your loan principal payments where you can put in the debt. You should also, if you've got debt and you've got interest payments, then the other models in here, this can be used inside that file to help you assess how much your interest is going to be. And you can feed that as a data source into this same file so that you can then assess when you're going to run out of cash and make sure you can take corrective action. Okay, so this is just one of the templates here. Another one I wanted to show you was this website development. So this one here, this is also a template that modern Excel gives you. So with this, it can help you make decisions on whether to make an investment. So for example, in this project, they're looking at whether to invest in a website and what returns they're expecting. So if they do this,
these figures are not in any way realistic. they're
no.
not. But yeah, $190,000 for a website. Okay, if anybody wants to spend that, they must email me right now, and we're going to hook you up. But for the rest of us, I think we can probably do something else. Sorry, carry on, Carolyn.
Yep. Okay, so in order to go ahead with this project, they would need to invest in hardware, software, and development. So the overall investment is 190k. So in business, we all know that at the end of a project, you want to get something out of it. The cost of the cash investment is, in this case, is 10%. This 10% might be 20%. And this will change the numbers at the bottom, depending on the government tax rate of 30% might actually be 20%. We are expecting a return on this investment. So in this case, we're looking at a return over 3 years. So we've got direct sales. So by having this website, we will be able to increase our sales. We will generate additional incremental sales because we'll have a salesperson available to make those sales. This one here, because we are able to negotiate with our suppliers, we can then increase our sales because they're offering us better margins and perhaps we're getting publicity. Because we're selling on a website rather than actually operating in a shop, we will save on travel costs. So again, that brings in some benefit. This one here is reduction in customer service costs because we'd be selling by website instead of from our shop. Okay, so these are the other costs that will be incurred, and these are matched against both this investment and the revenue from making this investment and looking at it. So what we're saying is the net benefit to us is this cost. We have to pay tax because you just have to pay tax. So the value in cash after paying for all of these costs and the tax is 6.6. Then we get to add back depreciation because of taxation. So depreciation means that the expense of the initial hardware cost is deductible from tax. So we generate overall cash flow of 244, but we have to consider the time value of money. So if we have $10 and we invest it in a project, are we going to get our return on that? So in this case, it is going to take 2.4 years for us to generate enough cash overall to cover our investment to make it worthwhile. The IRR, internal rate of return, works with NPV. So in this case, our NPV is negative. So we would say, no, this is not necessarily a good project. Our IRR is positive. So these two together, you would have to make a decision on whether to go ahead with this project. So if we could cut some of our costs, say the development, if we could find someone who would do it for cheaper and make it for half that, then our NPV goes up. So the net present value is the time value of money. Is it a worthwhile investment? So this is a template that Microsoft offer you now. So it's actually really useful. So on evaluation whether to go to invest in a project. Okay, so this one here that I wanted to
I'll just
show
make a
you.
point, but that actually was a really interesting sheet there. And so many times when you're trying to make a decision for your organization, you kind of, like doing it on gut feelings is so much inferior to having some great numbers that you can actually base it on truth, right? Like, see, now looking at that spreadsheet, you could go back to your supplier and say, look, we think we can only really do this if we do it for this dollar amount. What can you take out so that we can still achieve our main goals? And they can work with you there, right? Rather than it being necessarily, hey, no, don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
So at least you can work your way forward, but in a much more informed position. And if it blows out, then you can go back to the sheet and go, all right, now what's the expected rate of return? All right, now we see the implications of what goes on. Excellent. All right, sorry, carry on, Caroline.
Okay, I wanted to show you this one here. This is actually from the biz.gov website. They actually have some really useful tools in there for assessing your business, like SWOT analysis and building a business plan and looking at your revenue streams. And they ask some quite good questions on where you want to take your business and what your options could be, and helping you evaluate what those are. So this one here is looking at, it's a really simplistic view. What do you think that you can get out of your revenues first year and second year? So a lot of companies will be using a simple tool like this now, you know, because things are quite different. With, you know, when our futures are a little bit more unknown, but you know, it's a simple tool to say, well, this is my overall costs and what I need to put in, and is it going to generate anything at the end of it? So it's quite a simple model. You just download it. It's just an Excel file as well. So it helps you evaluate a project. And it is quite simple. There's no formulas in here, except the sums, sorry. Okay, so there's different versions here, but they're looking at, this one is looking at a project investment, a little bit like the previous version, but the template that comes with Microsoft Excel is a bit more complex and a bit more useful, depending on your comfort level. Okay, so what I wanted to do now was to show you some simple formulas. So what I like to do when I am analysing data for some of my companies is go here and look at the revenue drivers and things. So what I was going to do was just show you the first formula, which is a summer. So I want to know how much Peter Driver is going to earn us in revenue. So I'm going to select the cell here, which picks up all of the column D. And then I'm going to put Peter Driver in here. And then select all of column F, because that's where my information is. Okay, so Peter Driver, he's going to generate revenue of 6,375. But the better way to do it, because you only want to do this once and then have a template that you can use again and again, is to copy, start a new sheet, or even put it on the bottom of your sales graph sheet. But let's just do it over here. Peter Driver equals sum if. Select the column where all the source data is, put in 2 commas, and then put in your number range. Yeah. Okay, go back to here and put in B2. So Peter Driver, that's how much. But I've got this list of all of them here. Okay, so Brad Lamont, it's alphabetical. Okay, use the auto sum. Okay, I don't like that format there. I want it in $, and I don't want cents. Okay, I'd like this to be a bit more useful to me to tell me who's the highest straight away. So conditional formatting. I might do greater than 10,000. And then I might change that to green fill, because green is a positive colour. Okay, so say for example that everyone's forecast was 10,000 per month. These two people are in trouble. Okay, so then if I wanted to say, well, what is the percentage of Brad compared to the overall? I could do equals Brad divided by the total. So the total is a fixed cell. So I need to be able to put in $ so that it doesn't change. Then I can drag that down and do a sum. Don't like that format, so I want it to be a percentage. So now I can see the percentage overall, which is sometimes easier to make a decision upon. Conditional formatting, I can do the above average. Okay, so the colouring is different because I'm looking at different things. So above average. And this one is above 10K forecast. So having formulas like that can help you make a better decision. So there might be a reason these two are below average, and there might be it might be as simple as they were on holiday or something.
One of the things that keeps on being drummed into me through my business mentors is you've got to have KPIs for everybody in the organization, and it's not just in sales. It's whether they're because a lot of activity can be reduced down to some kind of numbers or measurable outputs, whether it's number of telephone calls or email sent, and people can self-report on them. But when you're managing it, if you don't have some number, then it makes it really hard to manipulate like this to get to the truth of what's actually going on, right?
Yeah, you've got to look at what the data actually means as well. Yeah. So
that's a bit of a spruik for having KPIs for everyone in the organisation, and that we're going through a management what would you call it, platform format style that we're using called the EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, with traction management, and it really is key, and it's driving improvements in our business, and we're spotting things that we thought we were actually good at. We're not bad at it, but we certainly have room for improvement in certain small aspects. I don't want to minimize them. They're important to us because that's what we said that we're going to be best at. So having this kind of skill and capability is really key for managing your business.
Yep. Okay, so if I just go over to the customer analysis here, this one is telling me what the salespeople are selling, and this is how much they've sold. But I also want to look at who my best customers are. So I'm just going to copy this pivot table and paste it here, right in the columns. Okay, so what do I want to look at? I want to look at the customer, not the salesperson, and not the item. So what I've got here is I already had it sorted to show the highest. So that can help me see who my best customer is, but who does my best customer belong to? Okay, so it's not particularly useful there, so I'll go over here with the salesperson. Okay, so that's not particularly useful there. So what I'm going to do, I just want to look at, I'll just flip back over here. Peter and Harley. Oh, this one. Okay, so Peter is our best because he's selling hardware, and Harley is the second one because he's selling software. So this might lead me to make a decision on what the others are actually doing. Let's do them all. Okay, so I'm making the most on tools. And then I'm making the most on software. And this customer has brought tools and software. Okay, so what happens now is if I then go back to my data and I want to look at this customer here. So sometimes you want to look at the raw data, but I don't want to use the filters here. What I can do is just click here, and then it brings out on a new tab the actual original data, so I can see where it came from. So I thought that was interesting, so I might just do the same with this one. So he's brought software, but this one has brought both. So just by double clicking, it opens it on a new tab, and then you can make some decisions on that. Okay, so I'm looking at this list here, and I'm just going to pick a name here. And then I'm going to go onto this sheet, no, this one here. And I want to know how much this customer, this is just an example, how much his sales were. So I'm going to do a Vlookup, equals Vlookup. And I go back to my source data, and I'm selecting from here over to here. So I'm selecting from C to F, C to F. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the fourth column. And then I want it to return a value only if it equals to what I want. So what I want is back here in this section here in the formula is what I want my result to be. So I'm looking for this name here. So this person here, their sales were 96. Okay, so what I wanted to do now was show you what if I wanted to concatenate this person's name with this item that they're buying. So to concatenate means equal concatenate. There are concat. Here we go. You can do concat or concatenate. the cell, and I like to have a dash in between, and this cell, and it puts them together, and then you just drag it down. There we go, 890 rows of data. Okay, so I want this inserted into here. And then I can use this again to tell a bit more about what they're actually doing. So perhaps I want to compare August to September to see if the same customer caught things in August and again in September. So insert pivot table. Customer and amount. And then so I had to click refresh then because it didn't recognize that the concatenate was in there. So when I altered the layout of the data format over here was already set because I'd already created a empty pivot table. Now I want issue date. I want the issue date to appear over here. Okay, so there are minus signs here if you want to shrink the data down. And if you want to change the options in the pivot table to get rid of the totals, show grand totals for rows and columns, then you can do that. And then if you want to change the numbering format, get rid of the zeros, just to make it a bit easier to read. The item, kind of like that over here. It's just a matter of moving things around to get the right information. To tell you what you want to know, just to help you make better decisions. Okay. Were there any questions?
Oh, they're just about 100 questions. No.
Happy to help.
And that was really, really great to see all those. Absolutely exciting. And we've, there's so much to take in. Yeah. And at the moment, we're considering hiring you. Meet you here.
Well, spreadsheets are fun for me.
So there was some of the commands there, or the functions that you use. There was concatenate for joining two cells together. I mean, that could be used for, like, telephone numbers where there's country codes and you need to put them together so you can do an auto dialing sequence or something like that. where there's what was the Vlookup that was looking for a value within a set of tables and presenting just that. What was that? There was a couple of others you mentioned earlier on, I think.
Well, actually, I can tell you where to go to get some amazing formulas. So I watch lots of webinars and things because as an accountant, you have to keep your training up. But my favorite one is my online training hub. And I've actually downloaded a Excel tips, which I'm happy to share with you. It's got hundreds of amazing things on there. It's really, this lady is amazing. Minda, she does all sorts of webinars to teach you how to use Excel. But this cheat sheet has got all the formulas that you need to know. So this one, concatenate, if I can spell it right, concat. Oh, it's not in there, concatenate. They probably call it concat. No, okay. That one's, it's in there somewhere. They might call it something else now, but it's got little tips on how to insert formulas and things like that. I mean, I've been using Excel for many years, and I first started using it when I started a retail job where they gave me two spreadsheets and they said, can you type the data from one into the other? And I said, well, fine, because why don't you just use a formula? And it was done in 5 minutes. So that was nice. I became a bit of a legend after that, you know, with something that was so simple. You know, when you've got two data sources, they can easily be put together with a formula without a lot of manual effort. And, you know, using the information tools that are in Excel to create a dashboard is really useful. It means it creates a lot of time-saving tips so that you don't have to recreate every month. And then when you start looking at information on a month-to-month basis, you can actually see some trends and make better decisions on revenue streams, and then you can see things before they go wrong. And then even when you are using your software, the software doesn't quite give you information to answer your questions all the time because it's out of the box, it's all standard, and nobody knows your business like you, but you need to get the information and just transform it into something useful.
Yeah.
So you need Excel for that.
Yeah, I mean, we use Xero, and I mean it's a revelation for me. And then we, you know, Carolyn produces additional reports on top of that, especially when we have questions that come up during our regular meetings, or when we're dealing with some kind of business decision, which is fantastic. And if we didn't have this, then you're just kind of stabbing at it. And we also use quite a hefty line of business application designed by an IT company for IT companies in order to run our business in. And that covers off a lot of ground as well. But there is always gaps where you can, hey, look, just export it out and see, you know, look for the specific info that you're after in your business, which is fantastic. I didn't realize that there's so much functionality within Excel. I just take the outputs from Carolyn's reports.
Well, I'm moving into Power BI as well, and I would never try and build a financial model in there. I would always use Excel because it's easy and you can see your source data. But the things in Power BI are just amazing because it moves. You know, it transforms as you can scroll across and get a better visual. But, you know, Excel is amazing for just on the spot assessing what's going on in your business.
Oh, that was a bit of a teaser for what we're going to be doing next month, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, excellent. So, like I said before, if people do have questions or they're struggling with an Excel spreadsheet, yep, absolutely. You can hit us up at, you know, Carolyn's main email is accounts@vertech.co.nz, and she's more than willing to help our clients out. You know, if we can help you grow your businesses, then our business grows also, and that's what we're about.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and also I just thought of as a bit of a teaser. You pretty much finished up there, Karen? Yep. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's turn off your screen sharing. Oh, could you turn off your screen sharing? I think very good. Okay. And thank you. Okay, so next month is probably, people may already be aware that we're going to be launching my first book, which is, She'll Be Right, Not a Cybersecurity Guide for Kiwi Business Owners. Everybody's invited along to that. There's going to be some special offers that go out for those people who attend the launch, and we're going to try and get on the Amazon bestsellers list. All right, so there's how I'm going to make that feel good for everybody is that actually all the sales from this are going to go through to the Spirit of Adventure Trust. I do a lot of volunteering with them, and making them my primary non-profit partner. Yeah, so they're going to be some representatives from there coming along to have a bit of a chat. So hopefully we're going to make a bit of a party of it too. So I look forward to seeing lots of people there and enjoy the excitement of it. Bianca, do you want to take us out?
Yes, just yeah, let's just get this video going. Okay, so yes, I've already sent an invitation to everyone for their book. So yes, if you could please let me know as soon as possible. Then once again, just a reminder, on the 27th of November, 12:30, we've got Power BI with Carolyn again. So yes, I will send out reminders on that. And that is all for today. Thanks so much for joining us. Cheers.
Great stuff. Cheerio, everybody.